Hello, everyone. I'm finally back. I haven't done a video in it looks like almost 10 days, or might be even be 10 days. I've been kind of busy, and I'll update you a little bit on what that entails. Um, let's see. The last time I talked to you, I think I just barely let you know that Joe Shank resigned, and it seems ancient history already. But I want to update you a little bit on what the selectmen are up to, which is Joe is still a member of the board. His resignation was effective. He made that effective on the 25th, which I think is Wednesday. So the board is working quickly to do something. They're doing a little bit of work. They're having a brief meeting today at 2 o'clock to sign a contract or litigate, or not litigate, but negotiate a contract, I think. It's an executive session. It's on their agenda. I'm going to be heading out there just to catch the preliminaries. There is a section of the Board of Selectmen's meeting, which they always have, is chairman's additions and deletions, and sometimes those can be quite exciting. So I'm going to go, even though I may be there for all of 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes of meeting time. I usually go beforehand just to kind of hang out and wait. So I'll be doing my usual, and that will be uploaded later on. Then there's a meeting at the regular time tomorrow at 6 p.m. I'm pretty sure it's 6 p.m. And it's got a pretty traditional, usual agenda items. And on there is discussion of their next meetings, because Joe will be gone. And then and the last item is a conversation, or maybe just an announcement that Joe has resigned. My understanding is he hasn't given a reason. Maybe he'll tell us. My assumption is he's chicken. He doesn't want to take on the responsibility of not having Jazz as his backup or what have you. So he's just choosing the chicken way out, and or cowardly, I should say, and resigned. He can't take it back. I double checked that since he's already submitted it, he cannot unresign. He'd have to run for his seat if he were interested, and I don't think he's interested. But that's just my thoughts. So anyway, one of the things that's going to be discussed, which was surprising to me initially, is that there isn't going to be another selectmen's meeting until after the election, and the election is November 16th. And this is pretty scary to me, that there's a lot of things that require the Board of Selectmen to act on from at least every couple of weeks. And sometimes they've had to have an unscheduled or schedule a meeting quickly in order to take care of some town business that comes up from time to time. So we're going to go almost 2 months without a selectmen's meeting. And I think they've been working behind the scenes with the town administrator and town council and trying to determine how that is supposed to transpire. How can they conduct business when they don't have a board of selectmen? And, 20 years ago, it's about 20 years ago, we had a period of time where something similar happened. I can't remember what the circumstances were. I don't know if it was resignations or illness, that we were stuck with one member of the Board of Selectmen, and that was a guy by the name of Paul Consemi. And since then, I've always thought that was perfectly legitimate, that it was what they did. And back then, Paul would have a selectmen's meeting, and he would do everything himself. He would make motions, he would second them, he would vote all in favor, and continue on. And I remember him being nervous about it, but he did it. He really stood up and did this for a number of months. I'm not sure how many months he had to do that for. It seems like it was a very long time, but it was probably about the same situation. It was probably still around a couple of months. Excuse me. And so I thought that was perfectly legal. And when they started this, when I noticed that they're not going to have any selectmen's meetings, I really thought Teresa Morris was going to have, one person selectmen's meetings. And I noticed on tomorrow's agenda, yeah, it is. Tomorrow's agenda has a notice on the bottom that the next selectmen's meeting will be whatever the first date available after the election. And I said, oh, that's wrong. That can't be right. That's not, we got to have another meeting. And I said, okay, it's got to be about quorums. And it's either the law changed or something. So I did a deep dive and I looked up the laws, and there's been a conversation in Townsend, not just for the Board of Selectmen, but other boards, that I was misinformed or I was wrong. I admit it when I'm wrong about something, and this is one of them. That quorum, unless it's specifically designated by law on a particular board's function, the rule on a quorum is it's a majority of the board, but it's a majority of the board, as I should say, authorized members. If you have a 3-member board, you must have 2 members present, either remotely or physically. If you have a vacancy, it doesn't change the quorum. So in the sense of the Board of Selectmen, having 2 vacancies, you can't come up with a quorum because you have to have 2 for a 3-member board to have a legal quorum. There are no laws in place or charters or anything that allow a quorum to be waived. So Teresa is not able to have meetings by herself. And it's true of if you have a 5-member board somewhere, that would be minimum of 3. I've had a couple conversations on other boards, like, you should be able to meet. You have a quorum of available members, even though you don't have all your vacancy. You have vacancies, but you still have a quorum of who is available. So why? I don't understand. And depending, that's happened. There's been this debate for years in Townsend, and of course, none of us ever look things up. I mean, sometimes we do, but in this particular instance, and sometimes it depends. Town councils have sometimes, apparently, when I look back, probably been wrong about the advice we've been given. They just will, I guess they'll go along with anything and then defend whatever decision is made. So which makes things difficult when town councils do that. When I say town council, I'm referring to an attorney that would be employed or contracted for the town to make legal, provide legal advice. We don't have a town council as in we have a Board of Selectmen. So if I ever say town council, I'm referring to an attorney who's representing the town and giving opinions. And on this quorum issue, I think over the years we've had bad advice from town councils. So, but right now it seems like we're doing it right. I've looked it up, and it's like, well, I'm no lawyer. I'm going to keep saying that. I got to say that every now and then. I'm not a lawyer, but I did a little bit of a deep dive into Mass General laws and just a general Google, and looking at other towns have put the definition of a quorum. I don't think it's anywhere on our website, and I don't know if it's ever been anywhere on our website other than possibly in some form in our charter or some other bylaw. But we can't have these meetings. Nobody can have a meeting unless you have a quorum of the authorized member of your board. Vacancies don't help you. So we're really not going to be able to have a selectmen's meeting after tomorrow until November. That concerns me. It's just no way. There's a lot of things that are just going to be either done behind the scenes by town officials, or I don't know, or things that are not going to happen at all, or something. But I think that my concern since I started this channel has been transparency, and I think this is a real problem. I think hopefully somebody in town hall is listening. I'm sure they are. That we need some kind of accounting. I think if the town administrator can possibly do his report that they would normally do during the selectmen's meeting, it's part of the normal agenda, is for the town administrator to provide administrator updates. I'd like to see that. It doesn't have to be on YouTube. You don't want to go on YouTube, then don't do it. But do at least on a piece of paper, a Word document and post it to the Townsend website and maybe just give us some updates. And of course, I hope that Teresa is certainly going to be housing herself at town hall to keep tabs of what is going on, because despite the fact that there's no quorum, she should still be the chief consultant to town officials as business gets conducted from day to day. Don't need a vote to be a consultant. So, because she's going to have to deal with everything with the new board that happens in between now and the end of November. And there's a lot that can happen, and decisions we need, even decisions regarding the election. The election belongs to the town clerk, but there's other officials that have to participate in this, and this contracts might need to be signed. It could be financial crises. I mean, I understand that the payroll is taken care of, but we don't have the transparency of that, or the option for transparency. I believe the town clerk's going to be taking care of that, but that's the last I heard. I don't know if that's still the plan. See, these plans aren't really, they're not transparent. They're behind closed doors, really. So I'm hoping that somebody, the town administrator is perfectly capable of doing some kind of presentation, just a listing, to put something on the website. Hey, Townsend, this is what's been going on. We're not doing things in secret. Here's, we believe in transparency. We want to make sure the townspeople know what's going on. That would be very much appreciated. If you don't, well, I'm going to be a pain in somebody's butt. It's way too many public records requests. It's much easier if the town is transparent, and I'm not trying to be a jerk. I think it would be really nice if the town administrator could publish something to keep us updated on what's going on a regular basis, preferably weekly, because I'm sure there's plenty in a week that he's got to deal with. And this poor guy, he's dealing with so many crises. He just took over, and he hadn't been a town administrator before. He had other, senior administrative positions in different towns and different positions. His last position was a DPW. So, poor guy. I feel bad for you, Nelson. I really do. But just keep us informed, and even though it's hard, and I think we can get through this. But and then we do have the election. We have the presidential election, and other information on. I can't remember the date now. It's the beginning of November, and then on November 16th is the Selectmen's meeting. If it hasn't started, I don't think it started, or no, it hasn't. Early voting is available to people, and vote by mail. Everybody should have their postcard. Trash, don't forget, October 1st is trash. Pay as you throw. Got to get those bags if you plan on throwing anything away on October 1st. My trash day is Tuesday, so I'll be one of the first guinea pigs. So what else is going on? Oh, let's see. I've got the title here, First Amendment, Lawyers, and Open Meeting Law. So some of the things I want to bring up is, the First Amendment. I keep saying, and I'm going to keep saying, because I have no interest in being a First Amendment auditor. I am not a First Amendment auditor. I don't want to be a First Amendment auditor. That's for other people to do. Josh Abrams does that, and a couple other people. There's a bunch of them. We had a First Amendment auditor a couple years ago. I forgot the guy's real name, but his page is Press New Hampshire, Press NH Now. And he had come a couple years ago and went through the town, and the town was very unprepared. The only person in the whole town hall that was prepared was Kathy Spofford, our town clerk. She had already, it was going around statewide, and town clerks around the state were already talking about it, but I guess nobody else was ready. He did 2 videos, part 1 and part 2, very entertaining. And you'll recognize some of the participants. And that sent shockwaves through the town. And I think, and Sergeant Reedy from the police had to come over. They called the cops on him. And he explained to the town officials at the time that this guy had the right to be there. And at least I was really thankful that our police department back then was educated already and prepared for responding to First Amendment issues. So I hopefully have confidence that as I am going forward, not even doing First Amendment audits, but some of my First Amendment, unfortunately, didn't think this was going to be an issue, but some of my work, hopefully the police don't get called. In fact, the police chief's been in meetings that I've been recording. So, and he even talked to me while I was recording, and I cut it out. I didn't put it in any of my videos. It was a small conversation, nothing big, no big deal. So I think the police are pretty cool with what's going on and they know how to respond. But again, I'm not an auditor. My whole purpose in doing videos started out with attending meetings and recording the meetings. And because there were difficulties getting that information, they weren't recording, or there were technical difficulties that TCAM was having or something. But it seems that the more important a meeting was, the least likely it was going to be recorded, or the least likely it was going to turn up on YouTube, on the town's YouTube channel. So that's what started me doing this. And then I went to a couple meetings, and when I went to them, I was attacked. I was yelled at, which I didn't record because I was really just my interest was only recording the meeting itself. But then Joe Shank started yelling at me about stuff that made no sense to me. He did it, I think, in 2 separate meetings before he threatened to shank me. And I was kind of caught off guard, both in response, because to this day, I have no idea what he was talking about. He was accusing me of things that don't even make sense regarding recording meetings. And I barely started. So I still don't know what he was talking about. But after these verbal attacks, I said, I'm going to start recording as soon as I hit the building, because I got to defend myself. And I'd already dealt with BS, which, being accused of things that I didn't do or didn't say, and not having the video back up. So I've been pretty cautious for a few years on trying to protect myself by recording. My house, I've got a dozen Ring cameras. I should own stock and Ring, and a couple other. I've got some Wi-Fi and non-Wi-Fi cameras, because I don't want anybody to say anything happened that didn't happen ever again in my life. So anyway, but when it comes, so I said, I got to have these recording. If somebody's going to yell at me when I'm in town hall and accuse me of things, I need to be prepared for that. So I started recording before meetings, either a lot of times I'll record literally when I'm getting out of my car, as I walk through the building. I know it can be boring for people. And a lot of times I'll just do a separate recording. I'll turn my camera off and turn it back on, so I'm not boring people to death, and it saves me in editing time. But I am recording whenever I legally can, most of the time. And because I need to catch people saying ridiculous things to me. And as you saw the day, June 14th, when both Chaz told me I was deplorable and disgusting, which will live in infamy. I knew it would. I didn't know what was coming next, but I knew that he was going to regret saying that to me. I didn't know why, but I knew that he was going to, because it was just profound that he said such a thing. And then Joe Shank, at that very same, before the meeting started, he threatened to shank me. So, or have me shanked, I should say. I don't want to be accused of slander, but the video is on my channel and it's been well circulated. So I started that recording, and and then now I learned how to do shorts. So some of the most profound things that happen at some of these meetings, or these preliminary encounters with town officials, I can't help, you said it. I didn't make this up. I'm not making fake videos. I'm just taking what you said. You actually said these crazy things, and I'm putting them up. So I've started doing that and putting my a little bit of commentary, like this video, or this is a video. This video is my commentary on what's going on, and in the town of, you just can't make this stuff up. It just goes on and on and on. So that's really all I'm doing. This is not First Amendment auditing. First Amendment auditing is walking into a town hall or a public place and just videotaping people and hoping or experiencing, some will deny that they're hoping for anything, but that's what they get, is to challenge the right to record and get into a debate about it. And that's not my primary purpose. If town officials, and they attack me because I'm recording, but that's not why I'm going in. I'm going in to record the meeting, and for either my own personal purposes or to share with other people, because even though supposedly this meeting is being recorded, that hasn't always been the case. That because of those technical difficulties, things happen, or sometimes it can be up to 2 weeks before a video gets posted. And we saw that with town meeting. People were really freaking out. We're very used to TCAM, and used to sometimes within hours the town meeting would be posted, and it took 2 weeks, I think, and I even did a public records request, which I should have continued on anyway. But there's that, which is why I'm doing it, because I'm the backup. If the town doesn't have it, the people will still get the video. You'll still get to see what's happening. And that's really all I'm doing. And I want to do more of it. I'm not going in there to challenge anybody on the First Amendment. The challenges with the First Amendment are those people coming after me and accusing me of violating it somehow, or violating open meeting law. So first of all, a private citizen, a member of the public, cannot violate the open meeting law. It is absolutely impossible, because the open meeting law applies to boards and committees, or what they call public bodies. A public body is some kind of an appointed board or commission or something along those lines that, elected or appointed, whatever, that constitutes should constitute a quorum. The open meeting law discusses posting agendas, following the agenda, meeting outside of a meeting, in a quorum, how a quorum will destroy your life. If you meet, you can't go out to breakfast with your board and then talk about what you're going to be talking about at your meeting. Can't do it. You can't call each other up if this conversation would constitute a quorum. So that's what the open meeting law is covering. And the piece in the open meeting law that talks about members of the public recording, that is to let the public bodies know that they have to allow it. It's not giving directions to the member of the public. The member of the public doesn't have to do anything. If the member of the public, me or anyone, goes into a meeting and holds up a camera, they don't have to, I got to make an announcement. No, I don't have to do anything. And the reason that the open meeting law, they should rewrite that. I really think that because it's confusing for boards and commissions, because the First Amendment is above the state law. So state law can't add a requirement. In order to exercise your First Amendment rights, you have to do this. They can't. That's just, and again, I'm going to say I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not giving legal advice, but it's just, you can't have that requirement. And that's where, in one of the meetings, there was a conversation that Veronica Kell even somehow coerced Dave Fanioli into apologizing. Well, he had no apology. He was right. Although he was wrong, he didn't know which law, but he just knew that something was different, that you don't have to make these announcements, and you don't, because there's been case law that has come through that has clarified the First Amendment rights of citizens. And one was relatively, I think, this year. So that really tightened things up. But even though I'm not a First Amendment auditor and I'm being attacked, I want to say this to town officials. If you have time, which you should make, because half of town hall doesn't understand the basic First Amendment and what the rule is. And there is the Mass Municipal Association, the MMA, I think it's MMA.org, now I don't remember, but if you Google Mass Municipal Association and you go to their website and you put in a search term, First Amendment, there's a webinar. It was made almost 2 years ago. It's directed to town officials regarding First Amendment auditors, and it's kind of antagonistic and it's boring as hell. I watched it. I couldn't watch it all at once because I was just falling asleep. But it goes on and on about where the situations were 2 years ago on First Amendment auditing. And it covers some of the laws. What's unfortunate, I don't like about that particular webinar is that it is somewhat antagonistic. Like, they're bad, we're good. How to defend yourself against something. How to defend yourself against the members of the public exercising their First Amendment right. Not a good look. But you should watch it. If you're a town official or anybody, it's open to anybody, that particular video. MMA is having another one. They're redoing because the laws have changed. They've tightened the laws and made it more. It's more restricted as far as, or it's enhanced the rights of the public to exercise their First Amendment rights. It's added clarity, and if you're a government official trying to restrict someone's First Amendment rights, it's harder now. So, because of recent case law. And so there's a new video coming. It's live video on October 22nd for town officials. It's the live webinar. The public can't attend. It's only for town officials, and you can't lie. They're using a particular database for membership in MMA. Probably after the live version, the recorded version will probably be available for the general public on the MMA website. I'm hoping to watch that. I'm hoping it's billed. It talks about First Amendment auditors. It doesn't talk about what you should know about the First Amendment. That would really sound better. So I'm thinking that it's going to be just as antagonistic, and it's going to talk to town officials as though there's a war between town officials and the public on the First Amendment, which it's sad. I'm really disappointed that they're still going with the same kind of character. It's not good. It makes people think that there is a war going on between public and town officials. That's not the case. So with that being said, that's just my advice. I ask town officials to take the time and watch both the old one, because it's still valid, and the new one when it comes up. You can find the time. If you can find the time to yell and scream at people who are exercising their First Amendment rights, you can at least find out what the law is. And you should also learn about the open meeting law. I'm just shocked at how few people understand it. So regarding me and the First Amendment, you see in the title here, it says First Amendment lawyers. Lawyers. I hired one. If you notice, if you watch the last full video of the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust meeting that I attended, I made mention in the debate at the beginning of the meeting. I told them, I said, look, I've already hired a First Amendment attorney. So whatever. I can't remember word for word what I said. But I told them that I had hired an attorney, and they just thought that was funny. They laughed at that. And it's like, I didn't lie. I mean, I had actually retained and paid my fee. And yep, I paid him. And let me tell you, these First Amendment lawyers aren't cheap. And this guy is, I consider him an expert in the First Amendment, and he's represented quite a few people that will sound familiar to some of you. He's represented Turtle Boy. He represents the Canton Nine. He wrote a brief I think it was regarding the protesters at the Karen Reed trial, that when Judge Cannoni first put the buffer zone for the protesters, and that was taken, I think it went to the Supreme Judicial Court on that. And he wrote a brief on that. He wasn't an attorney on that, I don't believe. I think he was just wrote a brief. And he's also in Massachusetts, at least, and probably in other states as well. He's done some of the case law regarding the First Amendment has his name on it. He's the attorney who represented the plaintiffs in some of the First Amendment cases that are now the case law that are being based on. So I hired him, and we spoke, and he's taking care of, or helping me make sure that my rights aren't violated any further. Why did I go to an attorney? Why did I take that step? What has happened? Well, nothing. I didn't know. I really wasn't sure. And I knew that these videos are really pissing people off. And I don't consider myself doing anything profound or even intrusive or distracting or just, you know, if somebody doesn't like them, that's not my problem. That's your problem. But yet, and I know that, I watch some of these auditor videos. I don't watch them all. I don't have time. There's a lot of them out there, but I follow some of this stuff, and from time to time, these people, other YouTubers, they're getting arrested. They're spending time in jail. I mean, look at Turtle Boy. He spent 60 days in jail and was never even charged with a crime. And that's like, holy cow. And, people get into debates. You see, you know, some of the auditors going into different places and they're told things that they probably didn't expect. And there's different laws. The one thing I didn't want to do is I didn't want to base evaluating my rights to record meetings based on what I saw on YouTube. It's not a good, that's not a good lawyer. YouTube makes it for bad lawyering if that's what you're trying to do. And especially since a lot of these guys, mostly men, but there's women out there, are going to different states, and different states have different laws. And then you run into everything from open meeting laws to the First Amendment, as well as wiretapping. And Massachusetts is unique. We're one of only 4 states that requires, and they may have changed. I think the Supreme Court is working on ruling on something on wiretapping. That I think there's only 4 states that require two-party consent on private conversations. Like if you record in Massachusetts a conversation you're having with another person, and it's secret, like you didn't have the other person's permission to record it. It can be telephone calls, or it can be just in person. If it's where the other person had an expectation of privacy, and there's no either obvious or actual permission given, you're guilty. It's a felony, I believe, and you could go to jail. And the courts don't take it lightly. They'll do you in for wiretapping. And it just with going to all these meetings and getting yelled at and being called disgusting and deplorable and getting threatened and having to go file police reports on selectmen who are just acting terribly, and I'm living in fear. I gotta have this documented other than just me. I said, I'm nervous. I'm getting nervous. And then with the thing with Chaz, okay, this town is well known for retaliatory behavior. And I just started to feel really unsafe and uncomfortable. And that when, Chaz resigned, and this is not a big deal. I mean, this is a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's just not insignificant. It's a big deal to have, for me to do that video with Josh and reveal Chaz Sexton-Duranian's behavior, and then that he resigned. I was like, this is, I go into town hall. Are people just waiting for me to do something or say something or not say something or not, whatever? It's like, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know if I'm walking a tightrope. I'm walking on eggshells. I don't want to get charged with a crime that I didn't know I was committing. I don't want to get sued. I don't want I wanted to know what laws are governing my behavior. And I didn't want to break any of them. I don't want to do things that I'm not supposed to be doing. I want to stay in line with the law and not get in trouble. There's no point, no purpose in getting in trouble. It just it starts to discredit what I'm doing. I mean, if somebody wants to accuse me of things that turns out that they look foolish, which is what's been happening. Almost not almost every it might even be almost every meeting. The Board of Selectmen kind of chilled out. I think I'm confident the town council spoke to them, or they asked him, for opinions. And so they probably told them to shut up and leave her alone. And then the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust has not listened to me or anybody else. And they're just, I don't know, they're making things up as they go. They have absolutely no idea what the open meeting law says. I don't know where they're getting their information. They can't read. I don't know. They don't even know what the term meeting means. And they haven't, they only looked at the open meeting law guideline, the guidebook. And they were trying to find something that they can throw in my face, which open meeting law doesn't apply to me. And they didn't read any other part of the open meeting law. And that's pretty obvious because they just violated themselves left and right. I mean, you saw let me see if I'm going to pull up the last, anyway, let me get back to the lawyer stuff. So anyway, I wanted to get a lawyer to just first, my first reason for calling an attorney was just to get basic advice. I wanted to be able to sleep at night and know that the cops weren't going to knock on my door to serve me with a warrant or summons or something, or that I did something wrong, or police get called to a meeting and the police say, "No, Cindy, you screwed up. We got you now." With everything going on, I was really nervous. And I knew that things didn't feel right, but I didn't know what my rights were and what to do about it. I don't feel like this is right. And anyway, so, I made the appointment with the attorney. And then between making the appointment and actually meeting with him, I started to think about everything I've been going through in the last few months. And so I said, oh, wow, I think these are wrong. So I shared all the segments of the videos where I didn't feel things were right. And he went through everything and he said, yeah, they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that. And basically I got even more than I was expecting. So I'm really happy with the meeting that we had and so far what he's doing. And right now there's no lawsuits at this moment. Leave it at that. What has happened, letters have been sent to certain town officials regarding their conduct and reminding them of the First Amendment and the laws and the open meeting law and, why this matters or doesn't matter. And, basically not without explaining every word of the laws. You don't have to do that. Lawyers don't have to do that, but providing the case law as well, that you need to, shape up, or, further action could be taken if you don't catch on to this. But it's really helpful. Even those letters are helpful to me to understand exactly in lawyerese what my rights are and how I can move forward in walking. Still, the tightrope is still out there. I still have to pay attention to make sure that I am staying within the law to provide the work that I'm trying to provide and videotape these meetings. So the town officials that are affected by this is, you might guess, the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust and the Board of Selectmen and our town moderator. So all of those people got an email. It was sent out Friday, and depending on what emails they read, they might not have received it until this morning, but they got letters. And I'm not going to read them. I don't need to share all that stuff. If they want to, they can, and maybe in the future I will. Depends on what's going to happen. So hopefully they'll take notice and realize. Of course, I'm sure town council is going to get a phone call from at least one of them and advise them. And I do, and I mean this sincerely to town officials. I'm not doing this just to make your life difficult. I'm not doing this to aggravate you. I'm not doing this to make money on YouTube, because I'm not monetized. I'm not making a nickel on YouTube. But you keep it up, I'm going to make a lot of money, because every time I get viral video, I just go, it's coming. Monetization is coming. And but it's not because something I'm doing. It's because you guys are doing. You're just really making a fool of yourself when you attack me on something that you don't even understand the law. So I really, and I mean this sincerely, learn the open meeting law, learn the First Amendment. And I know that a few months ago, I don't know, I don't remember, or I don't know what has transpired in town hall, that there was a push, which is still ongoing, about the conflict of interest law. I think there must have been something. Questions came up, and I don't know if there's a complaint in existence that I haven't heard about yet, or if there were questions that people were raising about the conflict of interest law. But there's a free, I mean, there's always training available online for town officials to take the open meeting law. They're required to take it every now and then, but you don't have to wait. You can take it anytime. If you want to check on something, go through the training again, or it's, which is probably easier than reading the law. It can be going to the conflict of interest law page on the mass.gov. Is, oh, it's trying to figure out what applies to you, whether, I mean, it's challenging. So I understand the training is pretty kindergarten. I somebody told me it was terrible, but learn learn the conflict of interest law. There's a seminar, I think it's this week, that is available to town employees. I think it's a webinar. I don't know that it's in person, or I don't remember, but some of the boards are talking about it, and hopefully people aren't going to ignore that. Oh, I understand that. Oh, I don't need that. Well, maybe you do. It's a good to get the refresher, even if you're not. If you, a lot of these trainings you can't take unless you are a town official, but a lot of the information you can find a way to get if you're not. So, and which I think it's good for the general public to learn as much as we can about these things. So that's just my recommendation, because and I'm not, like I said, I'm not an auditor, so I have no interest in making everybody's life difficult. I'm trying to make it easier for the public to know what's going on. And even as a former town official and as a member of the public, I know that when you're trying to get information out to the public, the first thing is, how do we do that? How do we let the public know? And there's nothing more frustrating than being on the board of selectmen, or somebody who's counting on the town meeting vote for something that you're trying to get through. That if the town meeting you want the town meeting to vote a certain way on an article, and you're just hoping, you're just crossing your fingers that it's going to go through, and sometimes it goes down in flames, because the people that are there at town meeting have no idea, they don't understand it, they haven't heard anything about it. And some people, they look at their civic duty as, I don't pay any attention to what's going on in towns, I just go to town meeting, that's my thing. And it's frustrating because, wait a minute, we've been talking about this continuously for the last year, and nobody understands. You have It's very frustrating. So I'm trying to be a public sided solution to that. So I would think the town should more embrace what I'm doing as opposed to fight me. So anyway, that's how I feel about it, because I'm not doing this to be a thorn. I'm really not. That's, somebody else wants to do that, go ahead. So that's my lawyer story. There's no, hopefully things are settled, and I do sleep better at night now, knowing that I did hire this lawyer, and okay, somebody's got me back, and he's been helpful, and he's an expert in this field, so we're good to go. I didn't hire a divorce lawyer to handle this, because that would be very bad, and I'm sure. I hired a First Amendment attorney. So here we are. So moving on to the next topic, I'm going to go back to talking about the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust. They're just out of control. I'm going to attempt to pull up. I've got this. I think I've got this. I'm going to pull up the short that I have out there that's gone a bit viral. It's got over 4,000 views. I don't know how that happened, but they hopefully I can make this work. that's not the one. Let's see. Oh, there it is. This one. This is one that's addressed by my attorney.
Are you recording, Cindy?
Yes, there is, I said.
Thank you.
Did the camera go on before the meeting started?
As soon as I walked out of my car.
Okay, because if you look at the open meeting law,
There's no meeting when I got out of my car. It's open meeting law applies to meetings. The meeting just started. But
have
the
you
first
been
thing,
recording the whole time we were here talking?
you're retaliating against me for.
No, I'm not retaliating.
Yes, you are. You're debating with me
No,
about.
I'm not. I'm
all right.
following the rules of the open meeting laws.
Great. The open meeting law doesn't apply to me when I get out of my car. Do you understand?
I don't know what that means, but
The open
when you
meeting
come
law.
in here, the camera should not be on until you have told, so we have a problem. I suggest we adjourn the meeting.
So there we have that. Yeah, wasn't that fun? That is just demonstrated how little Cindy Boundy, anyway, understands the open meeting law, and this attitude is what gets town officials in trouble, and the members of the public. Just what do you do? How do you even deal with this? That anyway, everything that she said made little sense when it comes to the law. I do want to pull up another one. Oh, no, I wanted to explain it first before I pull it up. In the same meeting, the meeting ended. The Townsend Affordable Housing Trust, after debating with me about my First Amendment rights and my conversation about I have a lawyer, and they thought that was funny. They went on with their meeting, and of course, they now are experts on the open meeting law, supposedly, thinking that applies to me and not them. Mind-boggling. But the meeting goes on. They talk about their stuff, and they talked about making changes to the census, basically, metropolitan statistical area, which is, I don't want to go too deep in that, but it's determined via the U.S. Census Bureau, United States. It's federal, and it defines an area and determines financial stuff and helps with eligibility for people who are in poverty or near poverty, that 100%, 200% of poverty level, and what the income limits are to qualify for a number of programs. It's determined by the metropolitan statistical area. And I don't know what, it's confusing to me as to what it is that Veronica Kell wants to accomplish by having, I guess, Congress, I don't know, have this changed so that we're in a different one, so that the threshold is lower, which my opinion is that this stuff would cause more people to be in poverty without help, not lose eligibility for a lot of programs. But yet somehow she's got it in her head that by going into a different MSA, it would help the housing trust get something. I don't know if she thinks we're going to get money, or the cost of housing will change. If we're in a different MSA, housing in Townsend will drop. And it's like, that's bullshit, because the housing prices are determined by the market. I don't care if you're whatever, you can have these affordable housing laws, which I think a lot of communities have just thrown it up, and nobody's even enforcing the requirement that communities have affordable housing, because I don't know that there is any such thing anymore. But she somehow thinks that changing the MSA will make it better to get housing that's affordable in Townsend, and it doesn't make any sense to me. So to make this change, but it disturbs me. It really frightens me that I hope she's not successful. I hope somebody doesn't take her seriously and take action at the federal level, because she's gone to see our U.S. representative, Lori Trahan, or at least her office. I don't know that she talked to Lori Trahan herself, but she talked to somebody in that office about this, and it really concerns me that she shouldn't be doing this. But anyway, that being said, within this meeting and within a previous meeting, at least one other one, this has been a topic. Although, at least for this meeting, I didn't check the previous one. I probably should. This meeting the other day, the MSA wasn't on the agenda. So that's by itself could be an open meeting law violation. I need to review this agenda a few more times to say, does MSA fall under any of the other things in there? And it wasn't an accident. Sometimes you can go off topic a little bit and get into some related conversation. Then they're not always seen as a violation of the open meeting law. Excuse me, I need to get my coffee here. Getting dry. Excuse me. So, but just on the surface, it appears to be an open meeting law that they even discussed the MSA. So then, as the meeting went on, meeting gets to the end, they're all done talking, and then they vote to adjourn. And well, see, the open meeting law is what requires the quorum. And you post agendas, you follow the agenda, and that you're not allowed to meet outside of a meeting. If the group of people meeting is discussing business, things that would fall under your group, outside of it without having a posted meeting. You can't go out to breakfast and talk about your agenda. You can't talk about it. The housing authority can't talk about affordable housing. Probably the housing trust certainly can't, and they can't talk about the MSA. They can't talk about what they're doing as a group or anything that they could possibly deliberate on. They can't meet outside of a posted meeting. So at this very same meeting, they adjourned the meeting. And as soon as you could see it on the video, the meeting adjourns, TCAM turned off their recording, so they weren't recording anymore. You could see that on the screen, that the Zoom photos, everybody that was on Zoom were gone. You could see it on both the little computer screen on the table and the big screen on the wall. But they adjourned very clearly, and then they barely got a word in with the adjournment, and they started talking again and continuing the conversation that they were having. And this is an absolute picture of an open meeting law violation. So once they adjourned, there's no meeting, but there's still a quorum. One person, Natalie Call, left, and she was not even on part of the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust anyway. She was there as a Townsend Housing Authority member who doesn't have a quorum. And then I forgot his name already. But anyway, he's a member of the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust, and he left. He didn't need to stay, or he didn't see any reason, and he didn't know that. And good thing that he's not part of this. But the other three, which constitutes a quorum of that board, whether they have 4 or 5 members that are in the group that are supposed to be. Chaz was actually a member of that, and he resigned from that. So they have those 3 is still the quorum. So the meeting's over, and they're still talking about topics that they were discussing in the meeting, knowing I'm still in the room. I'm still in the room recording And they knew this. There should be no secret that I'm recording. It's obvious. The camera's in full view. I didn't say, "Oh, I stopped recording all square." Nope, nope. And I told them, "That's what is wrong with you people? They don't think the open meeting law applies to them, apparently, or they really just never read anything beyond how can we get Cindy?" Okay. And they just kept talking. And then I stepped in and um, because I had a point I wanted to make during the meeting, regular meeting, about this MSA business. And finally, because the meeting was over, Veronica let me talk, but yet even though she let me talk, she started immediately talking over me. But I wouldn't let her have that. I just kept talking myself. And that's how Veronica talks to me in any meeting. Even when they had public comment period or I've been in a public hearing, she'll just try to shut me off and I just keep talking and she's talking over me. And I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm going to be taking action if she wants to keep that up. That's an issue that is also covered in the First Amendment case law. That you can't shut people off once you give them the floor. And the case law is also there's no requirement, like you can't shut people up because they're rude or they're making personal attacks. That is, no, you're violating the rights if you say, "Cindy, shut up. We don't want to hear that. You're being rude or no personal attacks." You can't say that. Once they say that, that probably is a lawsuit and there have been lawsuits. That's why there's case law. Anyway, that being said, I want to go back to my original story about Townsend Affordable Housing Trust having their meeting after the meeting, where the only person recording it was me. And they knew it. They knew it. They knew it. They knew it. And then as I was leaving, I told them they really should talk to Adam because they have no idea what they're doing. And they started yelling at me again. "I've seen your videos." Okay. And I'm going to show this video. Or the end of the video, if I can bring it. I'm going to try to bring this up again. Stop. I'm going to stop that screen. Bring this one. And yep, here we go. Let's see if I can. I got my whole window, which I really didn't want to do, but let's go.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, no, make the motion. So moved. Is there a second? Second. All right, and 7:17. All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right. No one opposed. All right, we will see you guys on October 21st. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Erin. Thanks, Hartley.
All right,
Thanks,
bye.
Erin.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, glad we had a meeting, thank you for keeping me on track.
I just didn't want to not move.
What do you think the likelihood is that with this going forward, that we'll be able to change our designation?
There was she didn't know how you did it or anything. So this is like the first time.
Veronica, can I comment on that, please?
I feel like
Sure.
The problem with you changing the designation, that the metropolitan statistical area, is it applies to more than housing.
Well, that could be,
It,
and we'll
it
find
is,
that
it
out.
not just could be. If you lower the threshold, you're gonna cut off a number of Townsend residents' eligibility for SNAP, for Medicaid, for
Because that
CHIP,
number goes
Because
down
that
too.
number goes
Medicaid,
down with
all
it,
those
yeah.
social service programs depend on that number. If we have a
So-
higher designation, that means the income
people
level
can
gives them
qualify,
eligibility.
which
So you
is the
might make,
same-
you think you're making some dent in housing, but you're gonna make more Townsend residents in poverty, that aren't in poverty now because of the programs. But
So
you're gonna put them
those
in
are the
poverty,
things
and they're
that
gonna
they're
have to go
gonna
to
look
Fitchburg
into and let us
to
know.
qualify,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Don't get
But-
Lori Trahan to change it without a vote of the town.
Well, I don't know the
I don't think,
process. I mean, I
just
really
don't-
don't know the process.
Yeah, but
So-
And I
that's
don't
something
know
but
too,
it-
if we can say, instead of using, 50%, we're gonna use 80%, or vice versa, I wrote that
Right,
backwards. To say, okay, we're gonna do affordable housing, and yes, we're gonna say, you have to, whatever your average medium income is on this, but we can say we're gonna take a lower one.
So in other words, there's another way to skin
I
that,
think,
is what you're
I-
saying.
Right,
I think,
right.
yeah, I think
So,
so, I don't know.
it is a trade-off,
Yeah.
There's something good about having the higher number.
Yeah.
But
the
there's
CPA
also
as well.
something bad
The
about having the
CPA too,
higher number.
It would lower the threshold for people that would be able
Well.
to waive the CPA.
That is true, isn't it?
It is.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
so
so maybe
it
it's,
was,
maybe we have to figure out what, if we don't use those numbers, or that we can use numbers that we feel comfortable with for what we use.
so we'll have to,
Oh, and the next time you talk to Adam, I say this very friendly, speak to him about the First Amendment, and speak to him about Cindy King, because he's already been spoken to, I'm certain, with the Board of Selectmen, and you're violating it really badly.
But
And
here's the thing, Cindy, if we could be sure that you weren't gonna put conversations that are private conversations that have nothing to do
You
with the
haven't-
town.
You haven't had a private conversation, because in a public building, I'm recording, I've got the camera in full
I
view.
didn't think the
You
camera was on.
know,
I
you-
didn't either, because I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Because.
It had
yeah,
already
I
been
And
think the
if
announced.
camera was
you're
on,
in here
and
recording
according to the-
everything, we're not
Okay,
gonna show
Yeah.
up.
You don't
to
have
the
any-
select
I've
meeting.
seen your videos
You
too.
don't
No,
have
but
any
I think it's a
expectation of
violation.
privacy in a
So-
public space. So enjoy watching tonight's video. That was the open meeting law violation, and that I did file an open meeting law complaint. I sent it in on Friday, and the first step of an open meeting law complaint is to notify the board that there's a complaint, and they have to respond. They have to hold a meeting within 14 days, business days of last Friday, because that's when I sent it to them. Not when they decided to read it, when I sent it, and they did receive it, but it was Friday, so the state calls that as about 22 calendar days. So they have to have another meeting before their next scheduled one in order to discuss my complaint. And if they acknowledge that they violated the open meeting law, then they can, if their response is satisfactory to me, then that's the end of it, that they maybe learned something about this open meeting law stuff. But if they're going to double down and accuse me of some wrongdoings along the lines of the open meeting law, or deny that they violated it and said, no, that's not a violation, we can't, that can't be considered. Okay, then I send it up to the AGO and the Attorney General's office, and then they'll decide whether or not there was a violation in the open meeting law, and then make their legal opinion, and they'll all receive that. So I think it's really important, and I think it's also important, particularly where Veronica Kell is running for selectman again. So these kind of things, if she's going to try that again, I think she needs to know what the law is, and sort of the townspeople deserve to know that she doesn't know what the law is now, despite her being on all these boards for a number of years. She's been on one board or another for more than 10 years and still doesn't know the law, despite the fact that having all these positions, she's been required to take the trainings, and apparently turns the volume off, doesn't listen to the webinars when they're on there. So I don't know. So that's my long, over an hour I've been chatting with you. No wonder I'm thirsty. Okay, so I wanted to bring you up to date on things that I've been doing, a little bit about the selectmen, the lawyers, and about what's going on with the open meeting law. So hopefully I didn't lose too many of you. And hopefully you're enjoying these videos. I didn't mention it at the beginning, but if you're watching my videos and you're enjoying them a little bit, please subscribe and also hit the like button. And if you don't like the story, like you like the fact that I'm doing the videos, then hit the like button. But don't hit the don't like button because you don't like somebody I'm talking about. If somebody's disgusting to you, putting the down button says you don't like my video. Hitting the like button says you like my video. That's what the like button is, not I don't like this. This happened in Townsend. Ugh. So this is my story. The purpose of my YouTube channel is to educate people in Townsend and anywhere else. I'm getting a lot of subscribers from around the world, actually. So this is how things operate here in this little small town of somewhere around 9,000 people, counting children that live here. And this is just a continuing saga that every day it's a new crisis. So that's all I have for you today. And if you can, there'll be a little, in fact, in the YouTube video, if you look on the bottom right hand corner of the video, this my logo there is there's a reel. If you click on that, that will bring it right to the subscribe area. If not, there's also below the screen there's a subscribe opportunity, and do hit the bell. If you hit the bell, that you'll get notifications whenever there's a new video. So hopefully you're enjoying these, and I'll get back to you another one later on today. It's cold here in New England. It's only in the 50s. Oh my goodness. So I'll be doing a short video about the Selectmen's meeting today, and then another one tomorrow as well. So hope to keep you informed or entertained, depending on your perspective. Okay, have a good day, everybody, and I'll be back. Thanks for watching.